Hey everybody, are you interested in placing your first wholesale order, but you don't have any idea where to find a legitimate supplier? Well, I was in your place roughly 6 months ago, and within the past week, I placed my first 2 wholesale orders. Now, if you want to know how I found my wholesale suppliers, then keep watching because I'm going to break it down step by step for you guys. If you're new here, my name's Tom with Path to Billions, and on this channel, I'm documenting my financial journey, which currently revolves around Amazon FBA. If you're interested in starting or growing an Amazon FBA business, feel free to smash that subscribe button and there will be plenty of content for you. I think it's important, before I tell you how I found these suppliers, that I mention if you're interested in opening a wholesale account with a legitimate supplier, you will need to form a legitimate business. This means getting a business license and a resale certificate. If you come across any wholesaler that does not require this information, I'd be wary of working with them. A real wholesale supplier will only work with a real business. It's just that simple. So, how do you find a good wholesale supplier? Well, how do you find anything these days? Google. The first step is, what exactly are we looking for? You have to keep in mind that depending on what you search for is going to determine the quality of your results. So, let's go on Google and see what we can find. Alright, so now that we're on Google, let's try a really broad search just to see what we find. Type in wholesale. So you can see we find a Wikipedia article about what wholesaling is. We found a directory of wholesale products, which could be useful. And you have Etsy. So going broad isn't the best idea. So what if we want to find a wholesaler for a specific product we're thinking about? Let's just try Nerf, for example. Go up here, Nerf wholesale. So we get a couple different results. You can see you get an ad for Amazon business. Then we have Everest Wholesale, which it says here, largest toy, game, and gift manufacturer and distributor located in North America. So that could be a good one to check out. So we'll open that in another tab. Then we have Wholesale Central again, which was the directory we saw on the first search. You have creativewholesaleonline.com.au. So I wouldn't think this one's a good one to use because it has .edu, so most likely it's Australian based, but we'll open that up and check it out. Then you have southernhobby.com, which it doesn't say anything in this description, but we can open up and check it out. We'll go through these 3 websites real quick, just so I can show you what I look for when I'm looking for a wholesaler. So we'll go over to Everest first. So we want to go to the US site, which is a good sign. We want to make sure we're looking for US-based suppliers. That way we don't have to deal with importing or anything like that. So if we go down, the first thing we want to do is scroll right to the bottom and look for an About Us page. You can see here, our team serves customers in the US, which is exactly what we're looking for. You can see their main address is in Canada. So I guess my main question for this company would be about importing from Canada to the US because I've never dealt with that, so I don't know how that works. But we can also register an account. So if we click that, so you can go through this and just fill out all the information about your business. So you can actually see here what is your main selling site. So if you click this, they actually have Amazon as an option, which is great. So that's 2 of the first things I look for is 1, they're US based. And 2, do they say on their website whether they work with Amazon sellers? If not, that's something you might want to call the service number and just check if they work with Amazon sellers. I personally recommend being honest with your wholesale suppliers and tell them you're an Amazon seller. And the reason is, if you think about it, if you're interested in someone and you start off the relationship by lying about who you are just so they're more interested in you, that relationship's not going to last. And it's the same thing with working with a wholesale supplier. If you lie to them, you might be able to get away with it for a little while, but eventually they'll catch on and they'll shut down your account. It's better to build a quality relationship that can last the long term instead of just a short-term relationship. So for this one, it's US based and they work with Amazon sellers. So this could be one that you might want to potentially work with. We'll close this and check out the other ones. This is the .au one. So we'll do the same thing, scroll all the way down, go to About Us, and you can see right here, based in New South Wales, Australia. So again, I'm not dealing with importing products personally, so I wouldn't work with this company. So we'll go check out the other one that we opened up. And this is Southern Hobby Supply. So we'll do the same thing I did with the other 2. Scroll down real quick, look for About Us page, just see where they're based. So this is a good sign right here. We have 5 warehouses, Nashville, St. Louis, Chicago, Long Island. So they're a US-based company, which is a great sign. So we just need to see if there's anything on their website that tells us about whether they work with Amazon sellers. So we'll do the same thing we did with the first one and click register to see what information they require. This is another good sign that they say they're for wholesale only because you don't want to deal with a supplier who might potentially also be your competition. So we'll click on create account and see what kind of information they require. And they actually have an online reseller shipping program, so we'll click that. And then right here you can see application of FBA labels and shipping labels and shipment to multiple Amazon DCs. So again, another great sign. US based, and they work with Amazon sellers. So just like that, you found 2 potential wholesale suppliers that you could potentially work with. You would just go through, fill out their forms, and then wait for them to contact you back, and then you can start looking at pricing to see if they're worth working with. Pretty easy, right? 2 wholesale suppliers right there on the front page. Maybe a little too easy. What I mean by this is most likely these suppliers have a ton of Amazon sellers as customers. The reason this could be bad is because if you think about it, you go through the process of opening an account with them, you search through your catalog and find a profitable product. Say they have 2,000 in stock, so you decide to scoop up 100 to sell on Amazon. Well, most likely there's probably a handful of other sellers that are going to find that same product from that wholesale supplier and buy them also. Say one buys 500, another one buys 200, another one buys 100. Now you're on a listing with a half dozen sellers who potentially have 100 or more units in stock. This pretty much brings you back to a similar problem as I mentioned in last week's video, and that is too much competition on a single listing. Now, if you decide to work with one of these easier to find Amazon friendly suppliers, then you have to pay attention to their stock levels. Do they have 5,000 in stock or do they have 100? And if they have 100, is it an item they replenish frequently, or is it potentially a closeout deal where if you scoop up the last 100, you'll lessen the chance of competition? As I also mentioned in last week's video, one of the reasons I'm actually getting into wholesale is looking for more replenishable products. So a wholesale supplier with a large amount of inventory isn't inherently a bad thing. But what I'm doing personally is actually buying test batches from some of the suppliers I've found and seeing how they perform over time. There's definitely nothing wrong with opening accounts with these type of wholesale suppliers. I actually think it's a great way to get started, get your feet wet, and learn the process. But whether they're going to be a long-term sustainable supplier is something you're going to have to determine. And it's something I'm working on with the suppliers I've found so far. With that in mind, how do we find better suppliers than the 2 we found so far? Well, one thing I'm doing is actually going farther than just the first page of results, going multiple pages in to see what I can find. Keep in mind, the more work you put in to find your supplier, the less likely it is that other people are doing the same. Too many people want things fast and easy, so if you're willing to put in the work, you'll most likely come out on top. Also, remember, before we start looking for suppliers, I had mentioned that depending on what you search for, can change the quality of the results you get. So one simple thing you can do is to replace the word wholesale with distributor when searching. For instance, before we searched for nerf wholesale, change it to nerf distributor. This is something I've actually heard from multiple people, and really the keywords you use can change the results you receive. My recommendation for you is to simply stop searching for big name brands. Stop trying to find suppliers for Nerf or Hasbro or Barbie or the like, and start looking for smaller brands. Start looking for smaller brands that aren't selling billions of dollars of product a year. All you have to do to find these smaller suppliers is simply pay attention when you're outsourcing. When you scan an item or purchase an item, look at who makes it and see if it is a brand you haven't heard of before. And then when you get home, look up to see if you can find distributors for it. You can also do the same thing on Amazon. Just go on there and search for things like toys or action figures or different keywords and see what type of brands are coming up, what type of companies are coming up, and see if it's something you want to look into. As I mentioned earlier in this video, it doesn't hurt to contact these companies that are really easy to find because it can help teach you the process of opening up wholesale accounts, and you never know if you might find some products that you could actually sell. Keep in mind, with these legitimate suppliers, even if you won't make money, you do have the ability to use their invoices to get ungated. So even if you might lose some money buying a certain product, you can make up for it by being able to source that product from a retail store. After you find a couple companies and start making accounts, don't stop searching. Your success ultimately comes down to your ability to constantly keep searching for new suppliers. There's a very good chance that these first suppliers you're contacting aren't going to work out for any number of reasons. Even though I've placed my first wholesale orders and I have accounts with several different companies, I'm still constantly looking for new companies to contact. The reason for this is I'm simply looking at the long-term vision of my business. I know in the long term, there's going to be a couple key suppliers that are going to drive the majority of my business. And so by contacting multiple companies at the beginning, I can start finding the best suppliers for my business. Please let me know down in the comments if this video is helpful or if you have any questions. Don't forget to smash the like button, subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one. Thanks for watching.